ask some questions. And I am going to start off by asking Christine to say hello to everybody, introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her background. I know she's from Harrisburg. I'm claiming her because she's from my state. And with that being said, Christine, go ahead and speak.
Well, first of all, Mr. Adrian Moody, thank you so much for inviting me to exhibit as a part of the Phenomenal Woman annual show. Please know that it was on my vision board this year to exhibit in Pennsylvania. So you actually made that happen for me. So for that, I am really grateful.
So who are you? Where did this craft of yours come from? This craft that you are now engaged in putting together these wonderful pieces of works.
Well, for that, we have to start on the island of Jamaica, where I was born. As a child, I used to draw the things that I wanted. So even from then, I used art to manifest what it is that I want. With that said, understand that where we grew up, today it's called being off grid, meaning there wasn't any electricity, there wasn't any indoor plumbing. So I share that to say, because I didn't have those amenities, I drew them and they existed, even if it was in my head. So creativity was necessary, a necessary part of life as a child. I also share that because there's the side of not having those amenities, but there was another side of the richness of not having them, because there was a natural upbringing. It was very organic, it was raw. I called it my Garden of Eden because every tropical fruit you can think of was right outside our door. We could just go and pick whatever we wanted, and we ate and lived very naturally. The community was very strong and rich in that sense. And what I'm starting to realize is that that upbringing is now becoming evident in my art. When I look at some of the faces that I create, I can see that balance between strength and struggle, because there was a struggle because of the lack of amenities, but on the other side, there was strength because we had to be strong internally to survive and to stay together as a community. So that's the birth of the creativity.
So let me ask you this question. So you kind of said a lot there. So I guess it spins into one of my initial questions, and that is your motivation and how you approach what you put down on the canvas. Did you just tell us that?
Yeah, so the motivation comes from me learning about inner peace, because back then life was simple. Being on the island, there was a sense of peace and serenity. And right now, I'm finding that again through art. And because I found that inner peace, I now want to share it through art with others.
So the mediums that you engage in when you apply your craft, can you tell us about that?
Sure. And I'm actually going to show, if everyone can see my screen, I can actually show them to you.
And while you're doing that, I want you to kind of give us some idea of the subject matter as you talk about your techniques that you use and the mediums that you engage in.
Okay. So the two pieces that I'm about to share, this is one of the first ones. You have them on view right now at the gallery.
Yes, I do, and they're wonderful works.
Thank you. This first piece is called The Shedding, and the other one you have, I'll show in a minute, is called Arrival. They serve as bookends to the pieces that I've been creating for the past 2 years or so. So the shedding represents getting rid of all the things that does not help us to be our best selves.
So when you say shedding, I'm visioning this piece that's on the screen, and it looks like there's some mesh wire in there. Is that the shedding part that you're talking about?
Yes, so that represents getting rid of anything within ourselves that does not represent our best selves. So it's kind of like a snake would shed their skin. The necessity for us to eliminate and purge, whether something physical or emotional that does not serve us. So we must remove all of that in order to become and to build into the person that we need to be.
So I take that to me, and I don't know, some folks may feel differently than I do, but it sounds like you're talking about some spiritual connectivity to what you do with your work. And it goes back to your opening remarks about your upbringing. And is that what we're seeing in this piece?
It is. So as I said, it could be shedding something physical, or it could be shedding something emotional. And the goal is to get to self-identity. The goal is to get to self-actualization. The goal is to get to peace. The goal is to get to your purpose. So in order to do that, we must go through the work of the elimination process. And you asked me about the materials. So you're looking at what's called Luan board, and you're looking at the mesh parts, which is actually recycled material. So things like the mesh bags that your oranges or fruits come in, I use those and cut it up. They're little pieces of wood that's in the forehead area. And the rest is acrylic paint on board.
So there's a bit of some foundness. I mean, there's some artists that like to use found materials.
Correct.
We once had an artist here who worked with Sam Gilliam, and Sam Gilliam would tell him to go out in the street and bring me back some stuff. And he didn't know what he meant. So what he brought back was stuff that he picked up off the street, and he took that and applied it to some of the work. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I once read that art is not always about pretty things. Do you take that as true or not true?
That is true. And this would be an example of, I wouldn't put this in a pretty category, but it represents the struggle that it sometimes takes in order to get from point A to point B, and the work. And that work sometimes can be difficult, it can be ugly, but it's necessary in order to have movement. And that's where you see the tension in the face and areas that might not be perfect, because as we know, life is not perfect. I do want to show you the next piece.
Because I see that this piece is, to me, it's more, this piece is more inspirational. Would you agree, disagree? And would you say that I'm kind of off base by making that apply to this piece of work?
And you're referring to this red one?
Yes.
Right. So I guess inspirational will depend on the individual and where you are in life. It is more vivid and I guess less
It's
tense.
not as dark. The other piece
Yeah.
can be a bit dark. This one has some life to it.
Yeah. So, and again, hence the purpose, moving from that place of the past to the present where we're trying to be, which is here. Arrival into purpose, self-identity, self-actualization. We all want to get here, that place of peace, that place where we found our purpose, and now it's the aha moment. So as I said, these are bookend pieces. They're at the total ends, different ends of the continuum, as you pointed out. And everything that I do now will fit in the middle of these two pieces. And I'll show some later with titles such as serenity, humility, self-control. These are different areas of our lives that we must master in order to get to this place of arrival. The pieces are intended to be reminders for us to keep striving. They're intended to be affirmations in our daily activities, for us to have a reflection in our environment of our strength, of our beauty, of our love for our natural selves. So again, these are bookend pieces.
So let me ask you, I mean, I'm going to change the kind of theme a little bit. I started out as a collector.
Yeah.
And then I got into the business of selling art. And I've been around too long, some would say. They're casual observers, and then there are people like myself who are collectors / gallery owners. What do you want them to draw from your work? Now, the people on this Zoom meeting have only seen two pieces, but I assume you want the person who looks at your works to draw something. What would you want that to be, or do you kind of leave it up to the person who's viewing it?
Well, both. In an ideal world, they will see the art beyond the aesthetic value. They will see art beyond an investment piece. They will see it as a partner piece, something that they can look at on a daily basis and be inspired by, something they can use as an accountability partner. Because as I said, the titles of my work are as important as the image. So if you have a piece on the wall that says self-control, it's meant to remind you to exhibit that behavior on a daily basis. As we know, life's a journey. We may have self-control today, but tomorrow we may fall to the side a little bit. So it's intended to be a reminder. It's intended to be a place to go to rest, to wander, to meditate, just to be reminded of your strength within. So beyond the decoration, the decor of the home, it is intended to help you maintain and bring peace to yourself and your home.
Do you have any art pioneers, people who you studied or uplifted you to pursue this this artistic your artistic talents? Everybody has one. Everybody has some that they
Yes.
read about, sometimes copied. That, you know, so who would they be?
There are a lot. And even today on Instagram, I'm inspired by different artists. There are a couple that I will mention, and it's beyond their art, why I'm inspired by them. Many years ago in the 90s, I started exhibiting. And I remember, I think it was in Maryland, it was a vending event, and I was very new. And I was there with the artist Cal Massey.
Mm.
Yes.
God rest his soul. Kyle is from New Jersey via Philadelphia, and when we opened up the gallery back in 2016, December, Kyle made his presence. Unfortunately passed, and we were trying to bring him here to this space, but that's great. That's great to hear.
So at the event, I wasn't selling a lot. As I said, I was brand new. And towards the end, he came over to me, and he must have sensed that I was disappointed. And he came and he shared some really kind words. And then he brought over one of his angel heart prints and gave it to me. And I still have it framed in my home. But I never forgotten that, because he didn't have to come over. He didn't have to give me a print, but that just stayed with me, of, you know, the kindness. So of course he is and was an amazing artist, but beyond that, it's the kindness that I will always remember. Then there's another artist, I don't know if you know Kimmy Contral.
Mm-hmm.
So
Kimmy, just so the audience knows, Kimmy's a sculpturer, and based out of Georgia.
Yeah.
And I met him years ago, and he's a good artist, very good artist, and he appeals cross-sectionally to everybody, which is a good thing from a business point of view.
So I saw his work in the magazines, and then when I used to come to Philadelphia for the big October Gallery Art Show, he was there, and I was in awe of his work. And I remember thinking, because of the abstract faces that he does and the way he magnifies the lips.
Correct.
I remember thinking, this is my tribe. And I felt confirmed after looking at his work, and, you know, he looks like me and he's alive. And I'm like, yes, I'm going in the right direction. And if I may, there's a piece that I did, and this was back in the 90s, right? And or maybe it was around 2000. I did this piece, and it was back then where after I did it, I was like, because sometimes I think, okay, you're a little out there, but then after I saw his work, I was like, I felt so confirmed. So
you can see, I can see, yeah, the lips and the
Yeah,
nose, I can see it. Yes. Hmm,
yeah.
interesting.
So those two interactions was significant to me. Of course, there's Basquiat's work, which I love his raw honesty in his work. Um, there's Gustav Klimt. I like his work because earlier I did a lot of pattern and design, intricate pattern and designs, and his work is just extremely detailed. So I like his work as well, just to name a few.
So let me ask you this question. I mean, I want to get into the inner workings of how you go about doing what you do. I mean, there's some artists who like to do their thing in the morning and in the evenings, and like when most of us are asleep. Do you like maybe on one day a week, 2 days a week, and then leave it alone and blah blah blah? How do you approach that? Do you have a routine and do you stick by it?
And I'm going to jump back a little bit. For about 15 years, I did art here and there. Then COVID hit, and I'm now working from home. So there's that extra time that I didn't have to spend sitting in traffic. So after my typical day at work, then I transition into doing art, and of course the weekends. And I do it as much as I can. Um, Sometimes I feel like I need to do it now. And I have that feeling now, like this weekend, I have to create something because it's been too long. So I hope that answered your question. It's become a need at this point because I found my purpose, I found my mission, and it's important that I complete it.
And what is that? You said you found your purpose. Your purpose as an artist, or your purpose to be more creative.
It's both.
There's a distinction between the two now.
That's interesting. I see it as one. But yeah, to be creative, but be creative as an artist, and to share what it is that I do create.
Now, are you saying that to say that that as an artist that you're getting under, this expression, getting your feet under you? You know what I mean by that? That you can walk with that purpose and when you were with Carl Massey many years ago, and you were like that little scared child sitting in the corner saying, "Well, I didn't do like I wanted to." Do you have that? Is that confidence there, and
Mhm.
such that look, I can do this, and I got it.
Yeah. The difference is back then I created art because it was something that I enjoy. I still do. It was something to do, but now I embrace it fully and wholly as a part of my purpose here on earth, and to share that joy with others that I get from it. The difference now is that I know it has to be done. Whether or not I sell it, it has to be done and shared because it's God's plan in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, um, do you know, I've met a lot of artists in my time, and I'll always ask this question um, about the struggles of being an artist, and then the you have to create, and at the same time, you don't want to create and not sell it. You want to have an avenue to sell your works. Um, have you figured that part out? Or are you still are you still learning that? Because there are some folks who say artists just should create and leave the business side of art to someone else. Do you think that you can do both or what?
And those are great questions. At this point, I have been doing both. And it was 2020 that I actually started up again. And since then, I created the website, the Instagram, the Facebooks, and have been posting. So while I'm creating, so there is the business side that I am working on as well. The plan is to continue to exhibit. My hope is to exhibit in Miami, in Atlanta, in Charlotte, and in Wilmington. Those are my next goal, along with selling from the website and also Instagram, which I have done successfully. And of course, that's where we met as well. So it's just finding a balance of doing the business side and also the creative side.
So if you were now, you're not an old woman, you're not a young woman, and you've been in this business for a while. If you were sitting talking with some young people who had an artistic desire and wanted to pursue it, what would you tell
them? I would definitely tell them to pursue it as much as they can, because I did not know that at this stage of my life that the fire would be so strong. It's stronger than it's ever been. But I guess that's a part of evolving and a part of growth. I would definitely encourage them to pursue it, because your purpose is your purpose. I'm just very thankful that I got another chance after so long to do it again, and do it with more wisdom and more fervor, and this time around, more support. My sister, Nadine Johnson, who's an author and an amazing graphic designer, she's always been there. This is how you build a website, Christine. This is what your post should look like. And she has been there for me. And with people like you who gives the platform and support. And I have to back up way back, because, when I graduated from college, I minored in art in college. And when I graduated, I ran into my counselor from high school. And we started having lunch together, dinners together. And she started mentoring me. I showed her my art and she's like, Christine, did you know that you can sell these? And of course I was like, I didn't know. And hadn't she planted that seed inside of me, we wouldn't have been having this conversation. So I thank you to Miss Ruth Jackson for planting the seed, but also continuously supporting me. All those times I would come up with new drawings and paintings, I would say, what do you think? And she would just always be there with great feedback.
So Christine, what I would like you to do is, for the benefit of the audience, is to show them some more of your works, and you can talk about them. I have a few more questions about, but I want to save some time for some folks who may be on the line that might be inquisitive and might want to ask you a question or two. So with that being said, if you don't mind, could you put up some more of your images?
Certainly. So we talked about the shedding, we talked about arrival. This is one of the earlier pieces when I just started meeting with my mentor, there were 5 black and white limited edition prints. They're pen and ink prints, and from the original pen and ink, limited edition prints were created and sold, and I still have some that I sell as well. And these were created in 1994, and typically the interpretations very poetic. For example, this is Dreadlock. Look at me. In a world of confusion, I am focused and determined to express who I truly am. Look at me. Don't be discomforted by my difference. Find peace in my presence. Acknowledge and respect all of me.
Hmm.
And this is an example of a paper collage. So the background, you probably notice, is black and white. And this is paper that I created a design and copy and pasted in Photoshop. So I created my own paper. And then on top of that, it's just tissue paper collage work.
Are those buildings in the back or images of a building?
And people have said that, but it's not intended to be. It's just simple triangle
Okay.
detail pattern and design. So this is an example of paper collage. And again, the title is as important as the image. Surrendering is something that I believe we must do in order to get to self-identity, self-actualization, in order to get to internal peace. The Strength Within is a piece that's currently on view at your gallery. And back to your point, images are not always seen as beautiful, but there is a soul connection based on the viewer, but the intention is for you to find the strength within. This is an example of, early I talked about the balance between strength and struggle, because depending on how you look at this image, you may see someone who has a face that's kind of brooding. As I said, growing up in Jamaica, we didn't always have the wealth as far as material wealth, but we had the strength within. We had a lot of internal wealth. It's encouraging you to continuously look within to find the strength within yourself. And again, this is paper collage on canvas and acrylic painting on canvas.
Hmm.
This is an example of an acrylic painting. Again, the subject matter, as you can see, it's not a face. So I do also do florals and other non-objective works. This is primarily acrylic painting, and there is some collage, paper collage that's within it as well. This is acrylic paint on board. And of course, the title, just as important, where we're all trying to get to peace within. Never turn your back on a brother. Or sometimes I see this piece as departure, because on the road to self-identity, again, we have to shed, and sometimes we have to depart our old ways in order to get to the new.
What's interesting about this piece, I know we first kind of got to talking to each other. I talked about an artist, an old timer, because of how you take your colors and the use of your color and how they blend. Richard Mayu. Um, if you were to take he doesn't do images like this in this piece, but I could see. And I asked you, were you ever influenced by him? And I don't think you said yes or no, but this is good work.
Thank you.
Very good work.
Yes, you were the one who actually introduced him to me. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, one of the things I like when I talk to folks like yourself, and because I'm 66 years old, I'm not bashful about describing my age. And I've been around this art thing for a long, long time. And I find sometimes I have to share what I know with artists because it helps.
Yes.
And and that's the way I am. I'm always supportive, and to me that's my mission. I mean, I want to make money, but I want to be supportive, and I try to let folks know that and let artists know that because you guys need to stay encouraged.
Yes.
You really do. But that's my little off comment. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you. Yes. This,
So
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, this is the other piece that's on exhibit at your gallery. And again, as you mentioned, that journey is not always pretty. It's very layered, and sometimes we have to remove different layers to find the gem that's inside of us. And we just have to be willing to do the work. So again, this is the shedding too. Again, mixed media on canvas. There is the netting. We talked about your orange bags. You don't have to throw them away. You can use them. And tissue paper, when you get gifts, you can use them for some art. And this actually is packaging paper that came one day, and I thought, oh, this texture, right? Okay, we have to keep that. And of course, just pieces of sticks that's found.
It's just amazing how artists approach subject matter and what they use to approach subject matter. It's just very interesting.
Thank you. We talked about that already. Humility, again, titled as important as the image. In order for us to get to the place of peace, we have to embrace humility. And these come from lessons that I've learned, sometimes easy, sometimes not. But so important in order for us to get to the place of peace. We have to become humble. And surrendering, being humble, the first is to surrender to God, for me, my creator. I find that things are just so much simpler in life when I'm humble, or I exercise humility. So again, just reminders of what we need in order to find that internal peace. Beyond the surface, again, it's about digging away at the surface entities that are not all us, but a facade, an act. And of course, courage, having courage to do that.
So I tell you, the way you the lips on your pieces are interesting. I can see, I mean, let me ask you this question, because some artists sometimes say, no, I don't take ideas from other artists. But I think all artists do. And you know, and I think that there's nothing wrong with it. Not that you're copying anything, but you know, I can see how you have been influenced by Kimmy in your work. I really can.
Yeah.
And he's a great artist. So you know, you should pat yourself on the back, because he is. And the other piece that I like about him is that his people who buy his work cross all ethnic barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't have one particular market. And I'm diving into a question in that regard. Do you feel that your work is versatile enough that all ethnic groups can participate and become a collector of your work?
I think so. Because as I said, there's the imagery, but then there is the emotional meaning behind it, the inspirational meaning behind it, as well. So the answer is yes.
That's great. So you and I have done, well, I'm not saying you have, but I've asked a bunch of questions, and I just want to see if there's any folks that may want to make inquiry of you, and ask anything specific. And so I'm asking whoever that might be to unmute themselves and to fire away. Going once,
I have a question.
going twice. Go ahead.
I was looking, I'm just learning about this type of art. The first thing that came to mind when I started looking at some of her portraits was abstract art, but her is not quite abstract. You know, it's abstract art, but then you also can see obvious, you know, features of face and nose and eyes. Not knowing whether her art is abstract, or because I'm not an artist, or is there a certain type of art that you would call this? Because I know there's regular art that the natural eye is used to seeing, where, you know, you see something, a boat, a house, a face, or whatever, and then you have sculptured art, and then you have abstract. So is this abstract, or is it any type of art?
I would put it in the abstract figurative category. And Mr. Adrian, you know, please add if you will, but that's where I would put it, where there is some essence of a figure, obviously in my work, face and some body. But you're right, it's abstract, figurative.
So one of the things that we try to do with the Phenomenal Women show is to feature artists, because the theme was built on Amma Thomas, who, you know, for those who may or may not know, she was one of the pioneers of abstract art for Black women back, and still is, as far as I'm concerned. And my wife came up with the concept that when we showcase women, we want to showcase them their art abstractly, but with some figurative spin to it. So, you know, this work of this image of courage looks more abstract to me. What makes it look like a person or face is the lips. So, and I think that abstract art tends to have a broad-based appeal to it, where everyone seems to like it. And to me, it's probably in the buying profession, you know, people tend to buy more abstract work or abstract-like work than figurative work.
Mm.
So anybody else have a question?
I have two more questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
As I also was looking at some of her paintings and the titles, from my standpoint of looking at it, it looks like a lot of it is, and each person, when they're looking at abstract art, each person comes up with their own ideas of what they see and what they get out of it. And I think that's a positive in a lot of her artwork because, each person can see what they want to see regardless of what the title is. As for instance, her title of The Shedding 2, I see strength. And then her humility, I see broken. So and I also see her art as a great conversational piece,
Oh,
I don't know what she sells her art for, but I know.
Nicole, Miss Davis, we're gonna get to that question.
Oh, no, I'm not going to ask about the price. I was going to make a statement.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what she sells her art for, but I'm definitely interested in getting one of her art pieces just because of the fact that, it's a combination to me of an image as well as abstract. And I find that a great conversational piece. So that was a compliment and an invite to sell. The last thing I'd like to say is that a lot of times when you see artwork, and people that are connoisseurs of art, they're like, man, I wish I could meet that artist, or I wish I knew that artist, but you don't always get that hands-on with that artist. And so to be able to meet Christina and to know her as a person and to actually see her art, I think it's an honor. So I can't wait to see her blow up in the art industry beyond her own imagination. And me being having marketing skills, I definitely will be pushing her art when I get it and just, take it from there.
That's great. That deserves. Anybody else?
I do have a question. Christine, you're so deep in thought, and I can just listen to you explaining your pieces of art, and you talked about the desire to work on something this weekend to start another piece. And I'm curious, when you have a vision, is it all tied to personally where you are in life? Because you started talking about your personal life as a child growing up and being inspired in a number of different ways. So as I look at the titles, as you said several times, they're equally as important as the art itself. I'm just curious, do you always come from a personal place in life?
And that's a really good question, Lisa, because sometimes I create the work and then put a name to it. And sometimes it's vice versa. But I will give a specific example. I learned a really great lesson this past weekend, and it's about the importance of learning how to receive fully. We're taught to give, and it's a good thing, a nice thing to share, but sometimes we're not always taught to receive wholly. And that was such a strong lesson for me as an adult of needing to learn how to receive, even if it's something as simple as a compliment. That I feel the need to do something that reflects reception, receiving, because it's a part of the circle of giving and receiving flow, and we can't block it at any part. So now I feel I need to create an image that represents that, because it's necessary in order to get to the ultimate place of peace. We have to be able to receive.
Yes, that's true. Lovely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anybody
Um,
else?
Did you, when you create your art, has anyone ever came to you and expressed something to you and said, can you put this in an art form? And if not, would you be willing to do that?
And thanks for asking that. Yes, I have successfully done a commission. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. And this is actually my Instagram, so you're able to see it as well. But I wanted to give you a specific example of one that was recently done. This was a commission piece. And what she did, she shared some thoughts, some words, and she said the colors she's interested in were maybe black, white, gray, and some yellow. Well, as you can see. So I share this to say, and she would be fine in me sharing it. I share this to say, what you bring to me or suggest to me, and I always tell the person it may not be what comes out, because I take that to my creator and ask to be blessed. It may happen, it may not. Not unfortunately, I'm just not the type of artist that can just create, I want a dog. I draw a dog. I'm not that type of artist. So when I completed it, I said to myself, Christine, that's not what she asked for. So I sat on it for a while. And then I finally said, and she liked it, so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the feedback that she gave to me, because that feedback just made me realize that the importance of me fulfilling my purpose of giving what I receive from creating. So I receive the gift of creating, and now I must give that gift so that someone else can have that joy of receiving.
Anybody else?
I don't know if you
Well,
can see in the chat, but I really like
I
this.
saw your comment. This worked, but what the piece right here that's on the screen? Yeah, but it's gone, right, Christine?
No, that's one, it's there. I see it. It's this one right here.
No,
I
yeah,
love
but
it.
I'm saying to Christine, I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gone.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody-
Because
That's no longer in existence, right? In your in your possession, so to speak.
yes, yes.
And one other question, when you create artwork, like say for instance, this one or any other pieces, are you able to replicate it, or it's only replicated due duplication?
Good point. So yes, I would literally need to make a print of it, because when I create, I am not even mentally present on this earth. There are pieces that I
Where
look.
are you? Where are you when you? I just want to know where you go.
Yeah, I know that sounds a little out there, but there are pieces that I look at and I remember the beginning of it and I remember the end, but I don't, and it's made me very emotional, because I'll think, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember why I made that decision, but it'll be later on. And I'm like, why, how? So where am I? I'm in a place of total peace. It's the closest that I feel to God when I create. And that's why it's so important for me to do it. Whenever I start to feel a little not centered, it is so important for me to go and create, to recenter myself. So to answer your question, I, I I don't do the same thing twice because sometimes I don't even know. Well, I do know.
That can really bring more value to your painting, actually, of being an original.
Yes, yes, I wouldn't be able to do the same thing twice.
Well, I'm a strong advocate that people who are buying art want to start collecting should focus on buying original works because the value is kind of consistent. And there was an article yesterday or something in the news that talked about with this economy that we're involved in, that one of the safest bets is to buy original artwork.
Mhm.
So I read it. It makes sense to me. I'm a seller of art, so I'm gonna say yes. I agree with that 100%. So Christine, tell our viewers how they can reach you. What's your Instagram page, your Facebook page, and all those kinds of things that folks can kind of follow you.
Sure. So on Instagram, and it's on the screen, it's at Christine D. Johnson Art. And then, of course, the website is my name, christinedjohnson.com. And I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as Christine Johnson.
Do you have any upcoming events? I don't know if some of these folks that's on this call are from you're down there in Charleston or South Carolina or close enough, but do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to share with the folks that are on this Zoom call?
There is a juried exhibition that's coming up that I'm going to submit some work. Hopefully it will be accepted in Summerville, South Carolina, but I always post my current exhibits or upcoming exhibits on the front page of my website.
Okay. Last words. I will say this, that it was that, when we first discovered each other, it was a good sense. There was even though I haven't met you personally, but we connected, and and you kind of opened up to me in terms of how you view yourself as an artist. So if we were to fast forward your life, is this something that that we can say, well, we met her on June 16th, 2022, and come June 16th, 2027 or 2028, she's at it and she's doing fine and she's on top of the world. Is that your goal in pursuing your artistic career?
Absolutely. My goal is to complete my mission, and that is through the arts. Another really strong goal of mine is to normalize visiting art galleries by age 5. There have been too many adults that I've met that their first time to an art gallery is as an adult.
That is true.
And it's not that you have to, be super passionate about art, but I think exposure is important. And one of my wish and goals is to show in more galleries, invite people in more galleries, and to have them bring their children into the galleries by age 5 so they can be exposed. Because I think art is to the eyes what music is to the ear, and our eyes need music. So, but not just seeing art on TV or on the internet. Because as you know, what you see on the internet and then experience it in person, especially when they're large size pieces, it's so night and day. So I want to be a part of just normalizing those gallery visits for children.
Well, Christine, I must say that it was a pleasure. We talked, just so everybody know, we did a trial run like yesterday just to get out the angst, you know, how sometimes these things happen. And Christy, you did a wonderful job. I mean, you were
Thank you.
prolific in the way you talked to us about your work. Obviously, your work has a spiritual connection, which is important, at least to me, and I'm sure to the people who are on this Zoom call. So I always say to artists, stay encouraged, stay engaged, stay connected, and you know, and we at Moody Jones Gallery are going to stay connected to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support and for having me, and for everyone who joined the call. Thank you. I feel loved, y'all.
Okay, have a good day, folks.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Bye.
weekend. Bye-bye. Cancel it.